So my name is Marcus. I work for Pearson Education as an EOT. Well, I used to work as an EOT academic consultant, and now I'm an US school product consultant. Okay, so now I work with bilingual schools and international schools, not with ELT anymore. So it's a new world for me now. Okay, so I've been working for Pearson for almost 3 years now, and I used to be an English teacher too. I worked at CELAP for 10 years, and I studied English in Curitiba at Universidade Federal do Paraná, and I also work for the British Council as an IELTS examiner. I don't know if you guys know IELTS, International English Language Testing System. Now a lot of people are doing that because we have the Science Without Borders from Dilma, you know, that everybody's going abroad to study now, so they have to do it. So good for me because I have more people to interview. Okay, I can make more money then. All right, you guys. So we are going to talk a little bit today about technology and teaching. I know that this topic can be a little bit controversial because some people like technology, others don't, or they like it, but they're not a big fan of it, right? So let's try to have a debate. I think, you know, I'd like you to share ideas with me too, what you think about it, if you use it in your classroom, technology, if you like technology, if you like teaching using technology, and things like that, okay? So I decided to call my presentation Tidal Wave. Do you have any idea why? Why do you think I decided to call it Tidal Wave? Any ideas? Ideas? No? All right. So we have a big wave. We have a tidal wave. A tidal wave is a big wave, right? It's I think in Portuguese we say maremoto, is that it? So we have a tidal wave, and today we have a tidal wave of information. We have a tidal wave of technology, right? We can access information really fast and very easily, right? It's a tidal wave of information. Information is abundant today, and it used to be very scarce in the past, right? Because we didn't have internet in the past. I used to have, I'm 36 years old, I used to have the Encyclopedia Barça, remember that? my parents bought that for me, so when I had schoolwork, I had to go to Barça to do some research because there was no internet. Information at that time was scarce. Today it's not. It's really abundant. I just have to go online. I just have to Google everything, and I have all kinds of information at hand, right? So it's very easy today. And this is our world today. Our students have that kind of access. It's very easy. It's very easy. If they don't know the answer to something, they go online, they look for it, and they have the answer. They can do it on their smartphones. So if you ask a question in class and they don't know the answer, teacher, give me a second. They go there, oh, I know. They just have to read it. So how do we deal with that? Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I think it's good. But how far should we go? Is there a limit? That's the point. Is there a limit to all that? Okay? So let's share some ideas here. I had to change computers, so the picture there is very dark. You cannot really see what's written there because I had to change computers. The picture was not so dark on my computer, okay, but no problem. I know what's written there. I don't know if you can see it. 150 years of unrevised education, right? Do you guys know Ken Robinson? Have you seen his video about the paradigms of education, something like that? It's a very cool video. You have his audio, his voice, and then you have a guy drawing an illustration while he speaks. Have you seen this video? Who has seen the video, just for me to check? Okay. Do you mind if I show the video for them to see it? Okay. Ken Robinson, they say that he's an expert in creativity. I never heard that before, okay? The guy is an expert in creativity. And what he says is that schools today kill students' creativity. We don't we don't let our students be creative. We don't give them that space to be creative. It's like, open up your skull. I'm going to put a set of information there, close it, and take it home. All right? That's what we used to do. I hope we don't do this anymore, but we used to do that. I don't know if things have really changed much. We're going to talk about that. So we have 150 years of unrevised education. If you look at that classroom, you have rows of desks. When my grandmother was at school, it looked like that. When I was at school, it looked like that. Today, it looks like that. All right? So the layout of the classroom hasn't changed in over 150 years. Is there something wrong? I guess so. I guess so, right? So the problem is, how did schools start? Do you know how schools started? When we started having formal education? Any ideas? A long time ago. Yeah. With the Industrial Revolution and Enlightenment, we started to have formal education. Why? Because we needed people to work in factories. We needed to form people to work in factories. So it was like, okay, let's divide them according to their ages. They're going to learn this set of rules and this kind of content, and then you put them into boxes, and okay, they're ready, just like an assembly line. And that's what we do today. Are we preparing them for the real world? Are we preparing them for the 21st century? I guess not. We still have that kind of education, like an assembly line, Industrial Revolution. We don't need that anymore. The world has changed. That's the point. And before that, before the Industrial Revolution, we didn't have formal education. So if you wanted to have education, you had to pay the Jesuits to teach your kids. And you know, a lot of people couldn't afford that. Okay? So formal education really started with the Industrial Revolution because of the need of people to work in factories and be able to master certain skills. So let's prepare those people to be able to do what we want them to do. Let's prepare them for that, okay? And we kind of continue doing that. If we look at the classroom, the layout, it's just like that. Ages, you're five-year-olds with 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds with 6-year-olds, and that's how we divide them. And we have a set of skills that they have to learn, certain questions that we have to ask. This is the content that we teach in 1st grade. This is the content that we teach in 2nd grade, and so on. So I think that the mindset hasn't really changed, unfortunately. Okay? So this is Ken Robinson. And he has a video called Changing Education Paradigms. I'm going to show it to you. It's a 10-minute video, but it's very interactive. It's very dynamic because you have illustrations. So as he speaks, you have a guy drawing a picture, okay, to illustrate what he's saying. All right? So let me find the video just a second. Here.
Every country on earth at the moment is reforming public education. There are 2 reasons for it. The first of them is economic. People are trying to work out, how do we educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century? How do we do that? Given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week, as the recent turmoil is demonstrating. How do we do that? The second, though, is cultural. Every country on earth is trying to figure out, how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization. How do we square that circle? The problem is they're trying to meet the future by doing what they did in the past. And on the way, they're alienating millions of kids who don't see any purpose in going to school. When we went to school, we were kept there with a story, which was if you worked hard and did well and got a college degree, you would have a job. Our kids don't believe that. And they're right not to, by the way. You're better having a degree than not, but it's not a guarantee anymore. And particularly not if the route to it marginalises most of the things that you think are important about yourself. Some people say we have to raise standards as if this is a breakthrough. You know, like, really, yes, we should. Why would you lower them? You know, I mean, I haven't come across an argument that persuades me of lowering them. But raising them, of course we should raise them. The problem is that the current system of education was designed and conceived and structured for a different age. It was conceived in the intellectual culture of the Enlightenment and in the economic circumstances of the Industrial Revolution. Before the middle of the 19th century, there were no systems of public education. Not really. I mean, you could get educated by Jesuits, you know, if you had the money. But public education, paid for from taxation, compulsory to everybody and free at the point of delivery, that was a revolutionary idea. And many people objected to it. They said it's not possible for many street kids, working class children, to benefit from public education. They're incapable of learning to read and write, and why are we spending time on this? So there's also built into it a whole series of assumptions about social structure and capacity. It was driven by an economic imperative of the time, but running right through it was an intellectual model of the mind, which was essentially the Enlightenment view of intelligence. That real intelligence consists in the capacity for a certain type of deductive reasoning and a knowledge of the classics originally, what we come to think of as academic ability. And this is deep in the gene pool of public education, that there are really two types of people, academic and non-academic, smart people and non-smart people. And the consequence of that is that many brilliant people think they're not, because they've been judged against this particular view of the mind. So we have twin pillars, economic and intellectual. And my view is that this model has caused chaos in many people's lives. It's been great for some. There have been people who have benefited wonderfully from it. But most people have not. Instead, they suffer this. This is the modern epidemic, and it's as misplaced and it's as fictitious. This is the plague of ADHD. Now, this is a map of the incidence of ADHD in America, or prescriptions for ADHD. Don't mistake me here. I don't mean to say there is no such thing as attention deficit disorder. Okay. I'm not qualified to say if there is such a thing. I know that a great majority of psychologists and paediatricians think there is such a thing. But it's still a matter of debate. What I do know for a fact is it's not an epidemic. These kids are being medicated as routinely as we had our tonsils taken out. And on the same whimsical basis, and for the same reason, medical fashion. Our children are living in the most intensely stimulating period in the history of the earth. They're being besieged with information and calls for their attention from every platform, computers, from iPhones, from advertising holdings, from hundreds of television channels. And we're penalising them now for getting distracted. From what? You know, boring stuff at school, for the most part. It seems to me it's not a coincidence totally that the incidence of ADHD has risen in parallel with the growth of standardized testing. Now, these kids are being given Ritalin and Adderall and all manner of things, often quite dangerous drugs, to get them focused and calm them down. But according to this, attention deficit disorder increases as you travel east across the country. People start losing interest in Oklahoma. They can hardly think straight in Arkansas. And by the time they get to Washington, they've lost it completely. And there are separate reasons for that, I believe. It's a fictitious epidemic. If you think of it, the arts, and I don't say this exclusively of the arts, I think it's also true of science and of maths, but I say about the arts particularly because they are the victims of this mentality currently, particularly. The arts especially address the idea of aesthetic experience. An aesthetic experience is one in which your senses are operating at their peak, when you're present in the current moment, when you're resonating with the excitement of this thing that you're experiencing, when you are fully alive. An anesthetic is when you shut your senses off and deaden yourself to what's happening. And a lot of these drugs are that. We're getting our children through education by anesthetizing them. And I think we should be doing the exact opposite. We shouldn't be putting them asleep. We should be waking them up to what they have inside of themselves. But the model we have is this. I believe we have a system of education that is modeled on the interests of industrialism and in the image of it. I'll give you a couple of examples. Schools are still pretty much organized on factory lines, ringing bells, separate facilities, specialized into separate subjects. We still educate children by batches. We put them through the system by age group. Why do we do that? Why is there this assumption that the most important thing kids have in common is how old they are? It's like the most important thing about them is their date of manufacture. You know what I mean? Well, I know kids who are much better than other kids at the same age in different disciplines, or at different times of the day, or better in smaller groups than in large groups, or sometimes they want to be on their own. If you're interested in the model of learning, you don't start from this production line mentality. It's essentially about conformity, and increasingly it's about that as you look at the growth of standardized testing and standardized curricula. And it's about standardization. I believe we've got to go in the exact opposite direction. That's what I mean about changing the paradigm. There was a great study done recently of divergent thinking. Published a couple of years ago. Divergent thinking isn't the same thing as creativity. I define creativity as the process of having original ideas that have value. Divergent thinking isn't a synonym, but it's an essential capacity for creativity. It's the ability to see lots of possible answers to a question, lots of possible ways of interpreting a question, to think what Edward de Bono would probably call laterally, to think not just in linear or convergent ways, to see multiple answers, not one. So, there are tests for this. One kind of cod example would be, people might be asked to say, how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? Well, those routine questions. Most people might come up with 10 or 15. People who are good at this might come up with 200. And they do that by saying, well, could the paperclip be 200 foot tall and be made out of foam rubber? Does it have to be a paperclip as we know it, Jim? Now, there are tests for this, and they gave them to 1,500 people. This is in a book called Breakpoint and Beyond. And on the protocol of the test, if you scored above a certain level, you'd be considered to be a genius at divergent thinking. Okay? So my question to you is, what percentage of the people tested, of the 1,500, scored at genius level for divergent thinking? Now, you need to know one more thing about them. These were kindergarten children. So what do you think? What percentage at genius level? 80. 80, okay. 98%. Now, the thing about this was it was a longitudinal study. So they retested the same children 5 years later, ages of 8 to 10. What do you think? 50? They retested them again 5 years later, ages 13 to 15. You can see a trend here, can't you? Now, this tells an interesting story, because you could have imagined it going the other way, couldn't you? You start off not being very good, but you get better as you get older. But this shows two things. One is we all have this capacity, and two, it mostly deteriorates. Now, a lot of things have happened to these kids as they've grown up. A lot. But one of the most important things that happened to them, I'm convinced, is that by now they've become educated. They've spent 10 years at school being told there's one answer, it's at the back. And don't look. And don't copy, because that's cheating. Outside schools, that's called collaboration, but inside schools. Now, this isn't because teachers want it this way, it's just because it happens that way. It's because it's in the gene pool of education. We have to think differently about human capacity. We have to get over this old conception of academic, non-academic, abstract, theoretical, vocational, and see it for what it is, a myth. Secondly, we have to recognize that most great learning happens in groups, that collaboration is the stuff of growth. If we atomize people and separate them and judge them separately, we form a kind of disjunction between them and their natural learning environment. And thirdly, it's crucially about the culture of our institutions, the habits of the institution and the habitats that they occupy.
That's a nice video, right? You can see a lot there. So according to what he said, if we think about learning today, learning happens everywhere. Okay, everywhere with anyone we like, wherever we are. We talk to people, we learn. They play, they learn. They play video games, they're learning. They're learning everywhere. It's not just school. Sometimes they learn more at home. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. Sometimes they learn more playing games. So they're always learning. They learn everywhere. So that's what we have to bear in mind. What I want to do today is I just want us to start thinking about our schools today. Just food for thought. It's like, yes, really, I never thought about that. Should we change? How should we change? Right? Just for us to start thinking about that. So my question is, why school? Why school? Do we still need schools? What do you think? I think we do. I think we do need schools. But
Is that such a question?
yeah, maybe in a different format. So we do need schools.
But is there such a question?
Why school?
No, why this question?
The question is, if the schools we have today, the point is, if the schools we have today, the way they are today, if we are really teaching our kids to deal with the 21st century, if we are preparing them to face the world, to go and work, to have social skills and creative thinking and things like that, or if the schools of today are the same as the ones from the past, like the ones that Ken Robinson showed us. That's the point. Because I think schools are very important. They are. I think we need schools. We need teachers, right? But how do we teach? That's the point. Yes.
We're talking about preparing kids for the world today, but again, what do you need? When you go to the job market, many times you need somebody who takes initiative, but who respects the hierarchy order, and the students don't learn that at home. So they go to school, they don't respect the teacher. And when he goes to the guy there, losing the attention with everything around, that's a question like cell phone in the classroom. Of course, the cell phone is more interesting than my class. They have no cell phone, but books around, they will get the attention to that. So when you say, are we preparing? No, we are not preparing. But why we are not preparing? Because nobody prepared them to go to school and respect the teacher. Because there's something like if you fail a student, you have to write thousands of reports saying those kind of things. But what are you going to do? And sometimes you have mothers going to the job market complaining to the boss, why you're giving too much work to myself.
It's a big problem, I know, because they don't have, let's say, the minimum of education at home. They don't respect teachers anymore. That's the point. Because they don't respect their parents either. Not even, yes, that's true. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. She said that at home we don't have education either. So when they go to school, they don't respect the teacher because they don't respect their parents. So it's like their parents should also teach them something. Maybe formal education at home is important too, not only at school. Because I know that today some parents think that they're going to be educated at school. It's like, it's your job, it's not my job, right? But it's not true. We know that, right? Yeah, we pay for it. I'm paying. It's your job. Do your job, right? So they don't respect teachers. They don't respect parents. They don't even respect their classmates, their friends. We know that. So the problem is really deep. Let's say it's complicated. It's not easy, right? But I think we should start thinking about it. Should we change the way we teach? I don't know. How should we teach that? I'm going to show you something. Because in the past, especially, I think everybody here is an English teacher or...
At school,
Sorry.
Okay. If you talk about the kids not respecting the teachers at school, for me what I think is, let's look back at where these kids come from, because education normally starts at home. So if these kids don't have education at home, don't expect them to have education at school. Because most of the parents, if they are leaving this job to the teacher, that I'm going to pay the money to the teacher, you're misleading your kid. In the end, then you start blaming, oh, my kid was not educated at school, because the foundation was left behind. So it's very important to, I think, to have meetings with parents and advise them what to do, because there are some parents who don't have or not.
I agree. What I tell teachers when I talk to them, and it's like, we also have to educate our students' parents. Because first and foremost, they don't know the process of learning a language. They don't know about it. So sometimes you give them homework, it's like, oh, he doesn't have time to do homework. It's too much. I don't know. They don't understand. So it's like, we have to educate parents too. Not only their kids, but we also have to educate parents. I'm going to tell you how things work. I'm going to tell you why he or she should do that. And you have to help me. Right? We need parent support. We cannot do anything without their support. It is hard. Okay? But what I'm thinking is, are we teaching them 21st century skills? Because in the past, when we talked about learning a language, we always thought about, what are the 4 skills? Reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We always thought about that. I have to teach those 4 skills. Today, when we think about language, or any other subject for that matter, we think about the 21st century skills. So I have to teach my students 21st century skills. I'm going to show you that, and then we can talk about that a little bit. So today we have an abundance of information, right? So we have YouTube. What can we find on YouTube? Anything, good things, bad things, right? We can find anything there. I found Ken Robinson there, so there are good things there too. They have access to that. They can upload videos, download videos. What is this? That's Apple Store. So there are thousands of apps that you can use, that you can know, dictionaries, pronunciation dictionaries, phrasal verb dictionaries, a lot of things that you can download there. So there are thousands of apps. What is that? Wikipedia. What is Wikipedia? It's an encyclopedia online, but collaborative. So everybody can collaborate, and they can change stuff there. So it's not 100% reliable. Anyone can go there and change. Oh, this is wrong. This date is wrong. I'm going to change it. So everyone can collaborate. Okay? You can find some good things there, but it's not 100% reliable, because you never know who put it there, who put the information there. Oh yeah, you can use that with your students too.
Because then they get more information trying to find the mistakes there.
Yes, that's true. She said that it can be really good too, because you can use that with students. They can find information there. They can correct information there. I don't know, maybe you're teaching them about, I don't know, Picasso. Okay? So they go there and they have to read Wikipedia, and maybe they have to put some information there. It's something that you can do with your students. They have to do some research, and then they have to write an article on Wikipedia, or maybe put more information there. You're using technology, they're using technology, you're learning about something important. So that's something they can do. Does anyone know this? Oh my God. Facebook. The world has it. Here, Twitter, and LinkedIn. It's more professional, business-like, right? So here's some information. We have more than 2 billion people connected online today. 2 billion, more than 2 billion people are connected. Do you think our students are among those people? For sure. What have I done? You have we will have 5 billion people by 2020. 5 billion people online. That's a lot of people. We have more than 600,000 iPhone apps. 600,000. You can find anything there, of course. Sometimes you have to pay, right? The problem is selecting what's good, what's not good. You don't know if you should pay for that. There you have 1 trillion web pages. 1 trillion web pages. You can find just virtually anything online. 8 years worth of YouTube videos uploaded every day. Every day. It would take you 8 years to watch everything per day. Can you imagine that? People uploading videos on YouTube? Wow, that's a lot. That's amazing. And 4 million Wikipedia articles. So you have a lot of people collaborating. You have a lot of people writing things there. And your students are among those people. So should we turn our back on those things and say, whatever, they're not here? I don't think so. So I think we should take that into consideration and maybe bring it to school some way. This is in the United States. This is in America. So if we think about the teenagers, right, between 12 and 17, almost 100% of teenagers are online. Almost everybody, as you can see here. Almost 100%, 97%, okay? And then you have here, teenagers with cell phones, 75%. I think we have more than that, right? And here, social network, Facebook, Twitter, over 75% too. So they like those things, they use those things, they make friends there, they chat there. Have you ever used Facebook to teach or in class or something? Facebook, have you tried? What can we do there? What can we do? Any ideas? How to use Facebook to teach?
It was a group work, so in spite of meeting in the class, they organized the group, the presentation through Facebook. So they were posting their finds and what they're going to present.
On Facebook?
Yes.
But you created like a group?
In fact, they created the group and they added me. So I was controlling their group work out of the class. I was able to evaluate them, not in class. Yes, who is working, who is not, what they are working. Yes, and the question is if they produced something, if it was valuable for the presentation or not. So I could check before they bring me something printed. Yes.
Skype. Nowadays we can teach by Skype too.
Oh yes.
So like, or we can even have a teachers meeting. Sometimes I have friends outside, so we meet on Skype in a video conference and we prepare classes, we give tips each other. So it's amazing, and I personally teach by Skype too. With a different approach, but it is the same teaching. Right?
That's true. Today, if you are a private teacher, you can have private students in Rio de Janeiro, you can have private students in Bahia, you can have private students in Pernambuco, anywhere, because you can use Skype too. They have the book, they can see you, they can talk to you, you can write things there, you can show them how to write things. I have a lot of friends who use Skype to teach. And I asked them if it was working, and they said, yes, it works. It works. So it's an option. We're using technology to teach. Even companies had to change because of technology. They had to change. Because now we have things like Facebook, Twitter, and do you know WikiLeaks? I don't know if you remember that guy. I think he was arrested because he was posting like very confidential, classified information online. I love that because he was disclosing all the bad deeds of politicians and things like that. So today it's very easy to complain. If you buy something, I don't know, you bought a washer, LG washer, it's not working very well. You go on Facebook and you trash them. You go to Twitter and you complain. Everybody can see your complaint. And they say, yes, I agree, I bought one too, it's not working. Don't buy LG, and things like that. I have nothing against LG, right? But today, that's what we do. I think it's wonderful, don't you think? That we can complain like that and everyone can hear us, right? But companies are worried about that. It's like, in the past, remember, like Americans, they loved sending letters of complaint. And we even used to teach our students how to write letters of complaint, right? Today we have emails of complaint, and we have Facebook and Twitter and WikiLeaks, right? Companies had to hire people to stay online and to check if clients were saying bad things about their products. And they had to do something about that. Contact the client, talk to him, see if you can work it out, see what you can do. So they had to hire people to read those things, to be connected, because it's like, oh my God, they can complain now, they can say anything there. We have to do something about that. We have to be careful. So they had to hire new people just to be online and check those things. We didn't have that in the past. So companies had to change because of our times today. And do you think that companies had to change? Do you think the school is immune to those changes? Is the school immune? That's what I'm asking you, just for us to think about it. Is the school immune to those changes? I think today it's not optional anymore. We have to take those things into consideration. We have to take those things to our classroom. We have to think about those things because that's what they use, that's what they do today. And we have to try to use that in some way, I don't know, in schools.
The teenagers, I think the first one started in Santa Catarina, that they are photographing the problems of the school and having it in, I think it's Facebook. And the students are doing this, 12 years old, 11 years old, about the structure, about the doors that were broken and blah, blah, blah. And they suffer lots of pressure, but they are doing this. They call a diário de classe.
That's wonderful. Public schools? Wow, that's wonderful. So they take pictures of the problems, like, I don't know, there is a leak there, the wall is falling apart, something, right? The teacher is not here. It's 10 o'clock, no teacher.
Yeah, we're supposed to have classes using the computer, but there is no connection today. I think when you ask about if the school is immune, it is not, and we have homeschooling, which more people are looking forward get information now.
That's true. Well, it's called Diário de Classe. You said Diário de Classe. You can find it on Facebook. It's on Facebook. It's a group on Facebook. Profile on Facebook. And you see the pictures of public schools, the problems there. They post them. That's great.
It was a girl from, I think, Curitiba who started the years. Yes,
It was a girl from Curitiba who started it.
She went to the radio, so you have.
Wow, that's nice. She went to the radio to complain. She became famous because of that. Very active.
Yeah, but the way she started, she's very mature for her age.
Very articulate, probably.
Yes.
Wow, an activist.
Yes.
An activist. Yes, we need more people like that. We need more people like that. That's great. I didn't know about that. Diário de Classe. That's cool. You know Mozilla, Firefox. I don't know if you use Firefox. Mozilla Foundation. So Firefox belongs to the Mozilla Foundation. Today, the Mozilla Foundation is giving badges to people who learn something outside school. But they have to prove that they learned it outside school. On the internet, I don't know, watching videos online, reading things online. So they prove that they have learned certain skills online without going to school, and they get badges for those skills acquired outside of school. I think they wanted to prove that you can learn things outside of school too. Okay? So they're giving badges to people who have acquired skills outside school, improve their skills outside school. Do you know that site? Coursera. Wonderful. Write it down. Wonderful. Coursera is a site. You have very, very renowned universities here. You have Princeton University, Duke University, Toronto University, Stanford University, Penn. You have, where is the other one here? Rice, Illinois, Michigan, the University of Edinburgh. Okay? Courses online, free. Free courses online. You get a certificate at the end of the course. They're all free. Can you imagine? You get a certificate from the University of Edinburgh. You get a certificate from, I don't know, Stanford for free. Free. You just have to go online. You pick your course. You register. You enroll. And then you start the course. It's great. It's great. And then you get the certificate. And of course, you're going to have classes with all those experts who teach there, all those professors, PhDs. Okay? It's very, very nice, very cool. Okay? I have enrolled. Let me show you what I'm doing. I'm doing e-learning in digital cultures. It's going to start on January 28th, 5 weeks long. I am enrolled. You can see here. This course will explore how digital cultures and learning cultures connect and what this means for e-learning theory and practice. Follow this course at blah, blah, blah. Workload, 3 to 5 hours per week. Okay? So after 5 weeks, I'm going to get a certificate from the University of Edinburgh. Okay? So you go online, you find a course that interests you, you enroll, and you can do it. Okay? It's wonderful for teachers. Wonderful. Did you know about that? Who knew about it? Yes. It's great. It's a great site, you guys. Great. That's funny. That's funny. How would you answer that question? Just tell me. If I looked at you and asked you, how many penguins are there in the world? You get a candy, yes. You get a piece of candy. Oh, wonderful. I like that. Do you have a minute? Let me Google it. Yes. How can we know that? You guys, believe it or not, my boss, I don't know if you know Piri Zabo. Have you heard of Piri Zabo? Ana Zabo? From Cultura, yes. Piri Zabo is her daughter, and she's my boss. I was talking to her. She has 3 sons. And, you know, it's funny because Piri was born in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. She comes from a Hungarian family. She's married to a Japanese. And her kids speak English, Portuguese, Spanish, German, French, and Hungarian fluently. And now her oldest son, who is 25, is learning... what language do they speak in Holland? Dutch. He's learning Dutch now. 7 languages fluently. When I say fluently, it is fluently. And he's 25 years old. Well, he's a genius, as you can see. You know who went after him? Google. He didn't have to go there. They came after him. They want him because he's very good. And he went for a job interview at Google here in São Paulo. And that's the question they asked him. Yuri, how many penguins are there in the world? And my question to you is, do our schools prepare students to answer that kind of question? I think I would panic and say, am I supposed to know that? Oh my God, should I have learned that at school? How many penguins are there in the world? I think most people would panic and say, I'm expecting you to ask me about my weaknesses, about my strengths. That's what I trained. That's what I rehearsed at home. Not that kind of question, how many penguins are there in the world? And you know, I would have answered what you answered. Can I Google it? I think they would love that, right? Maybe that's what they're expecting. I don't know. Just a moment. Get your smartphone. Google it. Okay, there are 1 billion penguins in the world. I don't know. Okay, so you give them the answer. And it's like, yes, you see, you can get it really fast and easily. But what he did is he said, you know, I cannot give you that answer. I cannot say how many penguins are there in the world, but I know that penguins are not, he said that they're not an endangered species. I don't know if they are. He said they're not an endangered species, that you can find penguins I don't know where. So he gave the answer like, I know about penguins. I just don't know how many penguins there are in the world, but I know about penguins, right? But maybe, I don't know if that's the kind of answer that they were expecting. Maybe they were expecting, I will Google it. Just give me a second, I'll Google it. Because maybe what they're trying to prove, you see, do you have to memorize this kind of thing? Is it going to help you in your life to know how many penguins are there in the world? Or you just have to Google it and say it, and then forget about it. I think some kind of information we have to take with us, but I don't think that kind of information, how many penguins there are in the world, would change my life. So it's something that I say, okay, just give me a second. There are, I don't know how many penguins in the world. So you see the kinds of questions that we have in job interviews today. The world is changing, really. How many penguins are there in the world? That's crazy, right? I hope he gets the job. And we were talking about 21st century skills. So what are the 21st century skills that we should teach our students today in schools? 21st century skills: technology, proficiency. We also have to deal with technology, and we have to help our students deal with technology, because that's what they're going to use in their jobs. The computer is there. iPads, iPhones, smartphones, okay? So technology proficiency is one skill that students should master to be able to face the 21st century, how to deal with technology. That's what they want today. The second one, collaboration, social skills, how to work in teams, how to work in groups, how to share knowledge, how to collaborate. So we have to do group work at school. We have to teach our students how to collaborate at school, because that's one of the 21st century skills. We have to develop social skills. What else? Culture, how people live in other parts of the world. Cultural fluency. We have to teach cultural fluency. Of course, it's impossible to know about every single country, village in the world, but how do people behave in this country? What should I do if I go there? How should I behave if I go there? If I have a business meeting there, how should I behave? A business lunch? Is it like here? Is it different? So cultural fluency. We teach them there are people in the world, they are different, they live differently. Okay? That's important. That's part of the 21st century skills. Deal with simultaneous information. They can do it really well. Okay? Do you like playing video games? Is there anyone here who like playing video games? I do. Xbox. Video games are wonderful. I know that parents don't like it sometimes, and they say, go open your book, don't play video games, but kids learn a lot from playing video games. They learn a lot, really. I have learned a lot, because you learn how to multitask. You have to pay attention, you have to jump, but you also have to freeze the water, otherwise you will fall. So you have to push this button, and you have to do this and that at the same time. So it's like they learn how to multitask. They can do, I think students today, if you get teenagers today, maybe they can do 5 things at the same time. So we have to teach students how to deal with different things simultaneously. So you focus here, but you also pay attention to me while you do this. So that's the world today. We do 1,000 things at the same time, and we got to teach them. That's part of the 21st century skills, how to deal with simultaneous information. And video games are part of that. Video games are good. Critical thinking, I love that. Let's teach our students to think for themselves. Okay? If you get, I don't know if you have seen American books, like science books that they use in the United States at schools, and you compare them to our books that we use here in Brazil. Americans usually focus more on critical thinking than we do here. I don't know. For me, like, I think that Brazilian schools are more worried about teaching the formula, memorize the formula for the test, right? And that's what you have to know. And sometimes, like in American books, we ask questions like, what is a scientist? what kinds of question do scientists ask themselves? Oh, they ask why. Why? Okay, so we start making them think critically about things. It's not just teaching science. You mix these two substances and you have this, for example. Write it down, right? They think about, what is a scientist? What do they do? What kind of questions do they ask? And things like that. So that's critical thinking. That's part of the 21st century skills. So I always say to teachers, don't spoon feed your students. Like, Big Daddy here, open your mouth, you get the spoon and you put it into their mouth. You give them the spoon, but they have to eat with the spoon. So today we say that teachers are, we are not the masters, the center of the universe anymore, because I think in the past, teachers were seen as the masters. It's like, I'm here, do as I say, do as I say. Today, it's more learner-centered, right? And today, teachers are seen as facilitators of the learning process. We are there to facilitate the learning process. What does that mean? I'll give you the spoon, because you need the spoon, but you have to get it, and you have to put it in your mouth. So I will facilitate the process by giving you the spoon, okay? But you have to do it. So we are not 100% responsible for their learning alone. They're also responsible for their learning. We have to share that, okay? Critical thinking is very important if we want our students to think and have opinions about things, and ethics too. Very important for the workplace to be ethical. So we have to teach that too. You see, it's not just reading, speaking, reading, listening, and writing. It's about that, 21st century skills. We have to try to apply that in the classroom too. Any comments? So far, so good? Yes.
Information that I have got from a student who is a university teacher and a psychologist. And she said that the market itself, for instance, they don't like USP anymore. Yes, because of creative thinking, that it's something that USP teaches you in general, being very much academic, but how to think. And the market, the Brazilian market itself, especially São Paulo, they prefer professionals who graduated from other universities. So there is the problem that they want they want the gold, but they don't want to pay for it, okay? So they want somebody who is critical, creative, but follow the rules the whole time. So it's a real problem that we have in our society, in other words.
Wow, I didn't know about that. That's why I decided not to go to USP, because they don't. Okay. I have a question to you. So have a look at this picture here. Imagine that you are teaching something and you see this picture in a book, okay? Let's imagine that the unit, the theme of the unit is, I don't know, poverty around the world. Let's imagine that, okay? I don't know how much time I have. I have 20 minutes? It's okay. I will give you 10 minutes, okay? Try to do it with the people sitting next to you. I want you to think about, remember, English, Unit 4, poverty around the world. And you have this picture in the book. And you have to exploit the picture. What kind of questions would you ask your students about that picture? I'm just curious, okay? Think about lower order questions and higher order questions. What I mean is, okay, no, I will spoil the fun if I say. Okay, so get together with the people sitting next to you and just imagine, how would you exploit this picture? What kind of questions would you ask your students in Unit 4, Poverty Around the World? How old they are? They are teenagers, let's say 13, 14, okay? Go ahead, 10 minutes. All right, very good. So let's see what kind of questions you would ask, okay? All right, someone from here, would you like to say it? Questions? Help me. Where do you think he is? Okay, one question from here. Where do you think he is? All right. More questions? What is he doing?
What's sex? Is it a boy or a girl?
Is it a boy or a girl? Where was the picture taken? Can you nationality? So, can you name the country? Where is he from? What would he have in his bag? Can you recognize the products that you can see in the picture? How long would it take to separate the trash?
Can you sell them?
Can you sell
How much would
them?
you be paid for that?
How much would you be paid for that? Okay.
And the child is not surprised because of the picture, as if it were usual, or people go there
And take pictures
and everything
and do nothing.
is the
Okay.
same.
So the child is not surprised. It's like someone is taking a picture and he's like, whatever.
Yes.
Every day is the same. Nothing changes. Yes, exactly. Nothing changes. I love that. Yes. We have a higher order question here. Higher order question. She asked me, why is he there? Why do you think he's in that situation? Who's responsible for that? You, me, the government? If you could do something to help him out, what would you do? How would you feel? Okay, what are the differences between the life that you lead and his life? Yes, do you have anything in common with him, with his life?
Is there a possibility of changing this?
Can we change that situation? The level of poverty in that country. Which country is that? I don't know. What is his biggest dream? Is that it? Is recycling important? Is recycling important? What I'm trying to say here is, of course, it really depends on your focus. It really depends on what you want to teach. Maybe if you want to teach, if the focus is present, continuous, you will ask, what is he doing? It makes sense. But that's a lower order question because you don't have a lot of critical thinking there. What is he doing? He is collecting trash. Okay, you know the present continuous, but am I helping you with critically thinking about things? I don't think so. What is the government doing to maybe solve that situation? Or so what I'm telling you is, if we think about the 21st century skills, remember that. Let's go back to the 21st century skills. Collaboration, culture, deal with simultaneous information, critical thinking, and ethics. Maybe if we bear in mind that we want to focus on the 21st century skills, maybe the questions that we should be asking them. Have you guys heard of CLIO? Content and Language Integrated Learning. Research about that, okay? CLIO, Content and Language Integrated Learning, is when you teach other subjects in English, but the focus is on the content, not the language, okay? If we think about the 21st century skills, I think we should ask questions like, how did the boy end up in that situation? Do you think we should do something to help him out? Do you think he can turn his life around and maybe be successful in life? What do you think he should do? Can we help him? Do you think society has to do something to help him out? What can we do? Are you doing anything? Governments, what should governments do? So these are higher order questions that will make them think critically. It's not just about saying, I know we are teachers and we usually ask, what is the color of the bag? blue, white, right? So the point is, if we want our students to think, we have to ask higher order questions like that. Why is he there? Can he change his life? How, right?
And even after that moment when we discuss this, what are we going to do? Are you going to discuss it that's okay? Or what are you going to decide to do after discussing, after
Yes,
saying this?
that's a good question. So after we have all this wonderful discussion, what should we do next? And really do. What should we do next? I don't know. Things, you know, they're not easy things. They're not easy things. It really depends on the focus of your class. But let's say that I want to focus on the 21st century skills. I want to make my students think, and I want them to be involved with the issue of poverty, famine in the world. Okay? What we could do is maybe organize some kind of voluntary activity. Maybe, oh, you bring food and we are going to help an institution and we are going to go there together. That's something we could do as a follow-up. Or you ask them to write about a plan to maybe solve that problem. I don't know. So we would have to follow up with something related to the issue, not with the present continuous, for example, if we want to continue dealing with the 21st century skills. That's the point. So we could organize something like, let's help an institution. You have to bring items of clothing and we are going to go there together as a follow-up to this activity. Or let's write a letter to the mayor, to the president, and let's demand that something be done. I don't know, right? Because it has to be related to the issue itself. But there are lots of things that maybe we could do as a follow-up. And that would be wonderful because are we teaching English? Yes. We are speaking English, we are asking questions in English. They have to write the letter in English. When we go there to the institution to give away our items of clothing, for example, we are going to speak English too. So the point is, English is there, and we are involving English in a very real situation. I think they're going to learn more, in fact. They're going to learn more, right? Okay. So we have to think about that, and we have to think beyond passing the test. Because I think today we think, okay, I have to teach them this set of skills because I looked at the test, and that's what they have to do to pass the test. So we always think about the test. They have to pass the test. It doesn't matter if the test is a piece of crap, right? They have to pass the test. So we prepare them for the test. And is preparing them for the test, preparing them for the 21st century life that they will have, the skills? Maybe not. So we have to think beyond the test.
And for the next elections.
For the next elections?
National election, we are preparing the students for the next election.
Sure. Of course. They are the future of this world. Maybe I won't be here to see it, but I want the next generation to thrive. That's what of course, yes, really. So let's think beyond passing the test. According to Herbert, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Herbert, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. The illiterate will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. What does he mean by that? If we think about doctors today, you know that for you to be a doctor, you have to study very hard. Years of study, right? And doctors can't stop learning because they say that teachers too, we cannot stop learning because things change. The way we teach changes, right? And doctors, they learn something today, so this is how I manage this operation. The surgery is done this way today. 5 years from now, it's not the same anymore. So they will have to unlearn. I don't do that way anymore. I have to unlearn it, and I have to be able to learn it again, relearn it in a different way. So what is good today maybe won't be good tomorrow. So I used to do things this way. I will stop doing things this way, and I will relearn it. I will do it differently from now on. So the point is They say that every 5 years, doctors have to relearn things. New ways of doing things, laser surgery, all those things. Okay, they have to relearn constantly. So the illiterate will be those who cannot learn and learn and relearn. The illiterate of the 21st century.
Would I say, instead of relearning, would I say adding knowledge?
I love that. Adding knowledge or learning, because you won't forget what you have learned, right? It's here. It's good. And you will use it. You are attaching things to that. Perfect. You are you are updating yourself. You are improving. Yes, exactly. You are adding things to your box. Adding things to your box. Exactly, exactly. Doing new things, but your experience is there. It's helping you, okay? The world doesn't care what you know. The world cares about, what the world cares about is what you can do with what you know. So if I say, there are, I don't know, 1 million penguins in the world. Okay, Marcus, very good, wonderful. Your information is correct. What can you do with that kind of information? I don't know. Maybe if I'm a scientist, there are lots I can do. A biologist, whatever, right? So the point is, I know a lot, but what can I do with what I know? If I know a lot, I keep it to myself. I don't work on that. It doesn't mean anything to the world. I won't change the world. Okay, but if I know a lot and I do something about what I know, yes. So what can you do with what you know? How can you change the world with what you know? In our case here, how can we change our students for the future with what we know? That's the point. And they know because they know a lot. And sometimes, depending on the subject, they know more than we do. That's very important. We have to be open to learning from our students too. Because some teachers are like, oh my God, no, I'm the teacher, I have to teach. Right? Paulo Freire, yes. Together, learn together, right? Learn together. So I don't want to see schools like that anymore, like factory schools, assembly line, boring, students are dying. And today there is a trend. Parents love to say that when their kids have a problem, they say, oh, I'm sorry, but my child suffers from ADHD, what's that? Attention deficit, ADHD. ADHD is very common today. It's a trend. Everybody has ADHD. And then you say, and then they take pills. They really take strong pills sometimes, kids. And they come to your class, they are numb. They're numb. They don't feel anything. They're there. They're drugged. They're zombies. Exactly. Okay? So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's real. I think that some kids really suffer from attention deficit disorder, but not everyone. That's the point. Not everyone. Right? So, I don't want to see those schools anymore. If you want to know more about that 21st century skills, technology, and teaching, I recommend some books. You can find those books, these books here on Amazon.com. If you don't want to wait for the book to arrive, the printed version of the book, if you have Kindle, you can download Kindle and you buy it and they deliver the book right away and you can read it on your computer. Very easy, okay? A New Culture of Learning, The Global Achievement Gap, Rethinking Education in the Age of Technology, and Now You See It. These are good books that if you want to know more about the topic, maybe you should read, and it's very easy to get them online. I don't know if you use Kindle. I recommend it. It's very cool, very easy, but you would have to read the book on your computer, okay? Some people don't like that on your iPad, okay, on your tablet, on your Kindle. Oh yeah, if you have a Kindle device, you can use the Kindle device. I think they sell it at Cultura and several places, no? FENAC. It's, yeah, it's not Kindle. I don't know it. All right. Kobo. It's the device? All right. Yes.
What you are going to do, what you know, and what you are going to do and share.
Yes. What are you going to do with what you know and share what you know? Share your knowledge, for sure. Because if you keep it to yourself, I mean, you're going to die with it? Yes. Exactly. Yes. So again, I want you to leave here today with that question in your mind. Why school? Why? Why school? What kind of school do I want to have today? Am I going to change now? Am I going to do things differently? Right? A very good way of getting money. Yes. A lot of schools have become money factories. That's true. Unfortunately. Like everything, yes. Unfortunately. They asked parents, what do you want your kids to take? What? I can't see it. Okay. What do you want your kids to take away from school? They asked parents that question. Do you think that parents said, oh, I want them to know phrasal verbs. I want them to know about the present continuous. Do you think parents said that? No. This is what parents said, if I can read it. I want them to... Oh my gosh. Yeah, because the picture was not that dark. I want them to be independent thinkers. Remember, critical thinking. I want them to be independent thinkers. They must have opinions of their own. I want them to be able to solve problems, real problems. I want them to be able, I give them a problem, they have to think, they resort to what they know, they think critically, and they try to resolve the problem on their own. But we have to give them those tools, right? And are we preparing them to resolve real problems? Are we preparing our students to be independent thinkers? I don't think so. And here, I want them to be leaders, to lead. So are we preparing, able to lead, able to lead, able to lead? So are we preparing them for that? That's the question. Our schools, right? Are they preparing our students for that? That's what parents want. That's what we want. Okay? So do you have any comments, any questions, you guys? Questions, comments? Nope?
Can you then return the names of the books?
Sure, yes. So I just want to leave you with this message. Keep learning. Our future depends on it, right? You should keep learning. Doctors should keep learning. Students should keep learning. Everybody should keep learning because our future depends on it. I'm going to leave the slide there if you want to copy the name of the books. I'm going to go back there, okay? I want to thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure, okay? Thank you for sharing your knowledge and for asking questions and for making comments. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.